Hi, I'm Liz Marquis, and I'm here to help you support the older adults in your life. This is Aging Well Anyway, a podcast dedicated to empowering those navigating the journey of aging and celebrating the life that comes with aging well. Let's get started. We all know that a house is one of life's major investments. In fact, building equity in your home is an effective way to accumulate wealth. And older adults often rely on the proceeds from selling their house to financing their next chapter. But we also know that when you make the decision to sell your house and move, especially if you've lived there for 20, 25 years or longer, the thought of packing and cleaning out your house is daunting. Add to that the thought of making a potentially outdated home attractive to buyers to get top dollar, and that can be downright paralyzing. In my experience, I've seen people delay moving to a senior living community or simply downsizing because the thought of moving and everything that goes along with it is too big of a hurdle. And they end up staying in their home longer than they wanted and make the move because they have to, rather than on their terms. And the responsibility of cleaning out and selling their home falls to their family. My guest today is Sheila Gschwind from Berkshire Hathaway Home Services, New England. She's going to talk to us about the benefit of time when planning to put your house on the market, what updates and repairs you absolutely need to invest in, and helpful hints to make your home appealing to new buyers. And it's not what you think. Thanks for listening. Hi, everybody. Today, I'm joined by Sheila Gschwind, a real estate agent with Berkshire Hathaway Home Services of New England and Hudson Valley for over 15 years. Sheila works out of the Simsbury, Connecticut office. She is a Berkshire Hathaway Chairman's Circle Gold member and a certified relocation professional. She's also a luxury collection specialist, meaning she's got a keen eye for detail and a solid understanding of what's necessary versus what's not when considering selling a long-time and well-loved home. Sheila, welcome to Aging Well Anyway.
Thanks, Liz. Thanks for having me today. I'm excited to be here.
Well, I appreciate it because I think we can both agree that selling a home at any age can be overwhelming. But selling a home that you've lived in for 20, 25, 30 years can be downright daunting. Can you talk a little bit about how you would approach someone or a family that is considering a move to a retirement community or simply a downsize when they've been in their home for so long and are concerned about what it's going to take and how much work it could potentially take to list their house?
Absolutely. Just the whole journey of living in a home for 20 plus years is very emotional. For many people, you've raised your family there, hosted holidays. You may have furniture that is family heirlooms. You've collected items. Maybe you haven't really gone through the attic or the basement. And it's just an emotional journey, not only for you, but also for your family, because people are used to gathering there. So when I work with people who are looking to downsize, I really take that to heart because I think it's very important because we could come in and be very transactional, but it's a more of an emotional situation and a journey. And that's why I always encourage my clients who are looking to downsize to engage with an agent as early on as possible. I've worked with clients for 2 to 5 years before they put a home on the market. And it's really because we take it one step at a time. And we may not talk for 6 months, but at least we put a plan in place and we can start moving towards that goal. So when the time comes and you've found where you want to be, or, you have to make a decision quickly, it's not a last minute decision.
Well, that's a good point because people tend to start thinking about moving or making a change as they age, sort of after retirement. So having a plan in place I guess having a long time frame is, maybe a little bit of a luxury because you do have time to consider where you want to go, what you want to do, but also how you want to move forward with selling your home, your long time, well-loved home. So if someone were to contact you, say, I guess really my question is, what's the ideal time when someone starts thinking about it? Or what's the downside if someone says, well, I don't really know, I'm not quite sure. And then they make a decision and they say, we have to put our house on the market, right away. I guess, do you have any experience? I'm sure you have experience with someone who wants to make a quick decision.
I mean, I've listed homes in less than a week.
Oh,
Somebody calls me and says I need to be on right away. But at the same time, I think ideally for your benefit and for, just making sure things run smoothly, 2 to 3 months would be great.
Oh, that's
That
good.
gives me the opportunity to come in. We walk through the home. We look at items. If there's anything that needs repair, we can address that. We'll give you time to have that done. If you want to do some touch-up painting or whatnot, if there's some decluttering, we can put a punch list together. Also, I use a professional stager to come in, and a lot of times I'll bring the stager in before we list the house, even before we do any staging, to help you with a punch list. So I work on everybody's time frames, but I think the goal here is really let's keep it as low stress as possible. So as soon as you have that inkling or that thought that this is going to happen, it doesn't hurt to engage an agent. But like I said, I've had families call me and say, we need to get this house on the market right away, and we'll have it on in a few weeks. I have other people who will call me 6 months in advance. So I would say, ideally, like I said, 2 to 3 months, a month would be great. But from my standpoint, I will work with whatever is handed to me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I work with older adults and help with transitions, a lot of times moving out of a home they've been in for a long time. And I've had some families say to me, well, we renovated our kitchen in the 70s. We renovated our kitchen in the 80s. So we're not going to make a move because we think we need to update our kitchen and our bathrooms because we've heard that that's the investment. You put in the money investing in a brand new kitchen or a brand new bathroom that will make it appealing to buyers. And so we're not moving until we do. For me, that sounds like it would add stress. Is that a realistic renovation that someone should or has to take on?
Definitely, you don't need to take it on. And I've seen many situations. First of all, remember, buyers have different price points. Okay. Also, some buyers, what you might think is a fabulous renovation might not work for a certain buyer. They might like, if you think kitchens need to be white, they may want wood. If you like, off-white walls, they might want gray. So I think the bottom line is really neat, clean, and well-maintained. Unless you're going to move in 3 or 5 years and you want to redo your kitchen, do it for you. Don't do it for the buyer. And perfect example of a home I showed recently, original bathroom, original kitchens, but it was neat as a pin. You could eat off the floor, and that house sold as well as a home in the same neighborhood with an updated kitchen. So it really comes down to neat, clean, and well-maintained, and making sure that you are, doing the right thing.
What would that be? So if you were to prioritize spending money to get a house ready to sell, is that, if people think about the roof, they think about the electrical, they think about the framing or the siding.
Right. A lot of it depends on, well, first of all, depending on who is selling the home, whether it's you own the home, it's a trust, it's an estate, you will be filling out, most people will be filling out property disclosures. An agent can advise you as to whether or not you're filling them out or give you, talk you through that. But on the property disclosures, they're asking about the age of the roof. Do you have any electrical issues? Do you have any plumbing issues? People ask me, should I go through a home inspection before I put my house on the market? I don't think that's necessary. But if there are items in your home, like for instance, say you have a leaking sink up in the bathroom upstairs, and not only is the sink leaking, but there's a stain in the ceiling in the living room below it. Fix the sink and have the stain in the ceiling repainted, touched up, repainted over. That way it's going to come up. And that way you can say, I had a leaking sink, I fixed it, and there's no issue since. Those are the important things of just those little items. When I say they add up, when a person walks into a home and they see 1 or 2 things that need to be done, a lot of times they won't think much about it. But as they start seeing a lot of different items, that's when they start getting concerned. With the kitchen, a coat of paint goes a long way. All right. You don't necessarily have to go out and spend $50,000 on new cabinets. You may have perfectly good cabinets, and if they're in a little bit of rough shape, maybe consider painting them. I also find light fixtures are a great way to change the look in a house, and you can do it fairly inexpensively. For instance, say you want to save your heirloom chandelier, and it's something you're either going to take with you or someone in your family you want to give that to someone in your family. Change it out before you put the house on the market. You don't need to spend a lot of money on a chandelier. Also, lighting fixtures in hallways that are typically up, ceiling mounted lighting fixtures. A lot of people will look at those, and you can spend $30, $40 on a new light fixture and you can totally change the look of it. So those are little things on the inside. Maintain your boiler, your furnace, just having those records. Sometimes you'll go down to a basement and there's cobwebs all over it. Just cleaning that area up, it makes a big difference. You don't have to spend a lot of money. It's just putting thought and process into doing the things that are important, decluttering, depersonalizing. The other thing that's really important too, I find, is when I say curb appeal, it's that first impression. And as people approach the house, there's trimming the bushes, putting mulch down if it's the spring or summertime. Maybe you need to touch up a little bit around the front door, the paint around the front door. Doesn't mean you need to paint the whole house, but on that approach, you want to make sure that people feel like it's a welcoming and inviting. Okay. So there's a lot of little things that you can do. And I think the important thing is, as you go through the process, remembering your first, second, third, maybe even your fourth showing are the pictures that people are going to look online.
Yeah, I was going to mention that. I mean, most people are pre-shopping online before they even step foot or even drive by a house. So that online impression, how it's marketed, how the house looks in those online photos is really important. How do you make an outdated or potentially well-loved home look good to buyers who are really searching online and looking online?
Well, there's a few different things you can do. First of all, like I said, the seller, you can make a decision. And I've talked through with my sellers this all the time. Do you want to, and a lot of it depends on your situation. Do you keep the house furnished or do you remove everything? And a lot of it depends on the timing and also the financial ability of the sellers. Can they move without selling? Do they have another place that they want to move to? I mean, a lot of it, when I say depends, and that's the conversation. That's why it's important to engage early. But with the technology that we have these days, and my background is technology, we can do a lot with virtual staging. So for instance, recently I listed a home. Everything was original in the house, the kitchens, the bathrooms, and there was quite a bit of wallpaper in some of the rooms. So my professional photographer, I brought her in and I said to her, I said, hey, can you, make this bedroom look, paint the walls after taking the pictures? Can you touch it up? Of course, when we put it online, we have to show the original picture and we have to show the after picture, just so people know that that's not what it really looks like. But she was able, in the kitchen, she was able to paint the cabinets virtually, and she was able to remove the wallpaper virtually in one of the bedrooms. And it made a huge, it made a really, really big difference. And that
because not everybody has the ability to visualize what an updated kitchen would look like. But because your photographer could take the original picture and apply virtual paint to the cabinets, someone can imagine what that kitchen looks like updated already. Yes. Without, oh, interesting. Okay.
Yes. It was great. And like I said, you have to put the original photo in there and the updated photo in there just so people understand that. But, some buyers can't visualize what things will look like. And it just helps them, visualize what this room might look like with a $50 can of paint.
Interesting.
The other thing I find is, when I talk to a lot of sellers, love carpeting, but many of these older homes are super well built, and a lot of them were built with hardwood floors throughout. Over the years, people continue to keep the carpeting, particularly in the bedrooms and the hallway upstairs, just because it's warmer, it makes less noise. So when I walk into a home and, I see a lot of carpeting, the first question I ask is, are there hardwood floors underneath the carpeting? And if there are, then we go down the course of, does the carpeting, is it in good shape or does it need to be replaced? And if the carpeting is in good shape overall, I may say, would you consider removing the carpeting in one of the rooms, like maybe the bedroom that you're not using anymore, that really there's not a lot of furniture that needs to be pulled up. That way the buyers can visualize a room that with the hardwood floors, and then the agent from a marketing standpoint can say there's hardwood floors throughout. If you don't have hardwood floors, I think it's really important that the carpeting is in decent shape.
Yeah.
9 out of 10 carpets can be cleaned, which, for a few $100s, you can have your carpeting cleaned. So that's, that also can be another big bang for your buck. All right.
Worth the investment.
Yes, absolutely. So like I said, every situation is a little different, and that's why it's important to talk about it. But I have found you can do a lot with a little financially. And it really is just clean, neat, and well-maintained. That's the important thing. You don't need to go spend $25,000, $50,000, $100,000 to get your house on the market. You might not command the same price as somebody who has an updated kitchen and bathrooms, but at the same time, you're not necessarily going to get that investment back if you're trying to do it quickly in the short term. But if you're going to be in your house for 4 or 5 years and you've always wanted an updated bathroom, update your bathroom. If you can financially do it. Do it for yourself. Don't do it for the new buyer.
So you enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
I guess, my biggest takeaway now, from what I'm hearing from our conversation is, when you have the inkling, the idea that you might be making a move somewhere down the line, whether it's, 1, 3, 5 years, talk to a real estate agent, engage with an agent that you know and trust and want to potentially work with and will want to take sound advice from to make sure that you are doing the right things, focusing on the right things, and give yourself enough time to do the things that they're recommending in order to, command a good price for your house. Because a lot of people are using the proceeds from the sale of their home to help finance their next step. But what I'm all hearing from you is you can do a lot with a little, and time and money to have your home be appealing to buyers and young buyers. So what I think is, appealing and attractive may not be what a younger buyer might want to do. So they may want to come in and put their own style to your home.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, they may be looking for a certain location and your house might fit that location and they're willing to do the changes over time. I have a lot of buyers and I talk to them and I say, you know what, sometimes the best homes to buy are the ones that may not be updated because, you're moving into a location that you want to be. And, particularly for this generation who's downsizing now, they take a lot of pride in ownership, particularly in the maintaining of a home. So you may not have that updated kitchen or bathroom, but when you walk into the basement, which I say is the most important room in the house, it's really well maintained. And there's a lot of, and I think an agent, who is worth their grain salt is able to point those things out to say, hey, a lot of the hard work has been done here. And you can now focus on painting the walls and, updating the bathroom to your taste, where the things that people don't want to spend money on because they don't get that happiness out of is a new roof, is a new boiler, is a new hot water heater. And I think the important message to the seller is if you've done those items, toot your horn about it to your agent, because those are important things to highlight. I love highlighting, any of these updates that have been done that, all right, they might not be glamorous to a person from an aesthetic look, but they're more important in many cases.
Having buyer confidence that they're buying a well-maintained home might be more important than brand new, sleek kitchen.
Absolutely. And like I said, everybody has a different price point.
Right.
And there's a different tolerance level for a seller from what they're willing to put into their home. But I think the important message is there's a buyer for every home. And just, remember that, and just take care of the things that really are important. Like, for instance, if you have a damp basement, maybe you don't get water in your basement, but put a dehumidifier in there. Every home inspector who is inspecting in New England is going to say, your home should have a dehumidifier. Put a dehumidifier in, it will take the dampness out. Little things like that, they go a long way.
Yeah. Yeah, interesting. It's so interesting because with sort of the emergence of, all the home improvement shows and all the home improvement sites that people are scouring, getting ideas for design and decorating, making sure that you have a solid, well-maintained home is really the starting point for a lot of buyers,
Absolutely.
in addition to location. And I think when you said there's a buyer for every home, that would make me feel good as a seller, that my home is going to someone who's going to love it and give it new life, or continue loving the house as much as I did. So that makes me feel good, when I think about people selling their homes and having an emotional reaction to leaving a long time, well-loved home.
No, absolutely. I mean, it's an emotional journey, but it doesn't have to be a stressful journey.
Good message. Good note to wrap up on. I appreciate that. So Sheila, thank you so much for talking us through, how to get over the hurdle or the challenges that can come with listing a long time home. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Liz. This is an enjoyable day. I like being here. Thank you.
This is a good topic. And for everyone listening who would like to contact Sheila directly, you can reach her by email at sheilag@bhhsne.com. Thanks, Sheila.
Thank you, Liz.
If you enjoyed today's episode, please feel free to leave a comment, like, or share with a friend. Now for the legal language. The opinions and information shared in this podcast are for general education and informational purposes only and should not be taken as professional legal, medical, or financial advice, nor should it be a substitute for legal, medical, or financial advice from a professional. We are not lawyers, doctors, or financial advisors, and you should consult with a qualified professional for specific advice related to your situation. All content, including audio, images, and text, is the property of Aging Well Anyway and is protected by copyright. Reproduction or distribution without our express written consent is prohibited.